They called it love,
but it turned deadly. Welcome to Crimes of Passion.
I'm Sabrina Roga.
I'm Corinne Vienne.
And this season, we are diving into stories where love, fear, and obsession push people past the point of return.
Subscribe now and step inside the world of Crimes of.
Today, we are covering the case of Pamela Smart.
Welcome back, mommies. Sabrina, would you like to play another round of red flag, green flag?
Absolutely. You
It's
never
so
have
fun.
to ask. Of course I want to play.
It also makes me reflect on my own life sometimes.
Sometimes I don't want to look in the mirror, but today we won't. As a reminder, this is how you play the game. We're going to give you some real life examples from today's case, and you can decide whether or not they are red flag or green flag. So basically, if your potential partner did any of these things or exhibited these traits, would you run, as in red flag, or would you be like, oh, let's cuddle, green flag?
Let's cuddle.
Let's cuddle. Today's case is one straight from the headlines, and it's also one close to home to us in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
It involves an aspiring news personality named Pamela Smart, whose quest for a big break ended in tragedy.
Okay, I'll go first.
Okay.
They're crazy about you. They shower you with attention, but their affection comes with conditions and you must do favors for them.
Red flag.
Totally a red flag.
Yeah.
Love should never be conditional.
It shouldn't, but I feel like it has been for so many of my relationships.
Well, and also just like the showering and attention and being
It's love bombing.
Exactly. Like it's too much.
Yeah.
We need a slow infatuation building to romance.
And it should not have conditions attached.
Mm-mm.
Okay. My turn.
Easy. Red flag.
They ask you not to tell anyone about your relationship because people wouldn't understand.
Red flag.
Red flag. Major red flag.
Hugely.
You deserve to be put in the spotlight and shine, never be hidden.
No. And also just like I just already don't trust this person because I'm like, well, what's to come of the relationship where you're already trying to set up the standard that you don't talk about what happens in the relationship outside of the relationship.
And what's their reason for hiding? Are they hiding you or are they hiding you from something else? Either way.
So double red flag
Yes.
to start this episode.
And this whole case is major red flags.
Yeah. Well, are you surprised it's a true crime podcast? The truth is, the relationship at the heart of this story was never a healthy one. What looked like connection on the surface was something far more dangerous underneath.
One person believed it was love, true love, and the other person saw the relationship as a means to an end.
An end that would cost someone their life.
Dun, dun, dun.
A warning before we begin, this episode contains descriptions of home invasion, child grooming, statutory rape, and murder.
And I feel like I'm simultaneously excited but also very sad for today's episode.
Yeah.
It's such a big story that was sensationalized and made headlines. It's something that we heard about constantly when it was happening, but it's also a story of manipulation that ends in devastation. It's also a story of a woman doing something shitty.
Right. I was just going to say, it doesn't like perfectly fit the mold of so many of the stories we've told before. Like it is the reverse roles.
I just get sad. I'm like, women, we're better than this.
Right. But it's a good example of how predators and terrible people can come in
All
any
shapes
shape and
forms.
size.
Yes. The Pamela Smart case, which is what we're covering today, has it all. Relationships, marriage, affairs, scandal, plotting, wiretapping, and of course, sadly, murder.
My gosh, who has the energy?
Right. It's exhausting just hearing about it. And everything that unfolded led to the destruction of many lives and also the murder of a man, 24-year-old Gregg Smart.
Pamela Smart always wanted to be a celebrity.
But real life got in the way, a few wrong turns, a few mistakes, and Pamela's dream seemed out of reach.
Until she met Billy Flynn.
Billy would do anything for her. If she asked him to jump, he'd say, how high?
And Pamela knew it. And she took advantage of this. She took advantage of Billy until it all blew up in her face.
In the end, Pamela did become famous and she had her moment in the spotlight, but it was just not in the way she ever imagined.
Derry, New Hampshire isn't the kind of town where homicides happen. Maybe a robbery or like a lost dog, a domestic dispute, but not murder. That is, until tonight, May 1st, 1990. Tonight, a Derry police officer swings his cruiser onto Misty Morning Drive. A woman had called 911, frantic, sobbing. She told the dispatcher that a man had been killed. The officer parks in front of an unassuming-looking condo, Unit 4E. From the street, it looks identical to a dozen or so other homes that make up the neighborhood. The same shutters, the same beige paint job, but the officer knows something terrible is waiting for him inside, especially when he spots Pamela Smart on the sidewalk, surrounded by a few neighbors. She's facing her home, tears running down her face, and the officer steels himself. He climbs out of his car, past the group of onlookers, past Pamela and her tear-stained face, and straight for the front door of the condo. With a quick inhale, he opens the door, he steps inside. The foyer is the only room in the house with a light on. To the left, there's a set of carpeted stairs that lead up to the second floor. And directly in front, a patch of linoleum floor that leads further inside the house, into the dark. Something is there, maybe 10 feet in front of the officer, splayed out on the floor, just barely visible in the shadows. It's a foot. Gregg Smart's foot. As the officer approaches, he sees Gregg lying on the ground, his torso twisted away from the front door, like he was trying to get away from something. Or someone. The officer inches closer, shining a flashlight down on the body, and that is when he sees the blood. The carpet is soaked in it, creating this red halo around Gregg's head. And the officer can see the wound, the spot just above Gregg's left ear where a single bullet had lodged itself into his skull.
And like you said, Derry, New Hampshire was not the type of place where murder happened. So
no.
The news...
New Hampshire seems so much more like their motto is live free or die, which sounds
a little intense.
Murderous and intense, but like there are some really quiet, sleepy towns.
Yeah.
So it was quite shocking.
And so the news of Gregg Smart's death spread throughout Derry, New Hampshire. A man was shot and killed in his home, and everyone is wondering, how does this happen? And also everyone is worried that they are at risk.
Right. There's a murderer on the loose.
So now the police are obviously determined to discover what happened. And that night began an investigation that does feel like a twisted game of Clue. They studied the crime scene, and it appeared as if the condo had been ransacked. Drawers were pulled out, items strewn about the floor, and there were expensive electronics piled by the back door as if prepared to be taken.
Mm.
The family dog, a small Shih Tzu named Halen, was discovered locked in the basement. Gregg's body was discovered near the front entrance of the home. His wallet, wedding ring, and valuables were all found on his body, and there was a candlestick discovered on the floor near his body. So at first they were like, is this the weapon? Which feels very Clue, a candlestick. Yes. But it was very clear, and it was ultimately determined that Gregg Smart had been shot at close range, execution style.
It is kind of confusing because it's like his personal belongings are still on him. And if there's a bunch of electronics, you would think that this was like it almost seems like a home invasion, a dog lover, home invader turned murder. Which it's like, did Gregg happen upon this and the person panicked, shot him, and then, there was no intention to kill him, and that's why they ran and left everything and had no second thought about like, oh, I should take his ring, I should take his watch, because they're scared themselves.
Well, so that's what it looks like at first glance.
Right.
It would make sense that maybe Gregg Smart came home and interrupted these intruders, these burglars mid-robbery, and it's like a botched robbery, right? But there's something that's not adding up. Actually, there are quite a few things that are not adding up. Firstly, Gregg is discovered with all of his valuables still on him. If they're there to burglarize, why wouldn't they have taken any of it? Which again, you could say that, like, they had a run. You could say that.
Yeah, they ran. Like maybe this was their first time ever killing someone. They didn't intend to. They're totally panicked. They're running.
But what contradicts that is Gregg is shot execution style. So it's not like, oh no, someone came in, willy-nilly shoot, oh we're caught. It is low. It is like, oh, we're putting this person down on the ground, coming up to them, putting a gun to their head before killing them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not panic.
I mean, I know what happens in this case, but like if I were the cop here, I'd be like, oh, is there a duo? And one of the guys is way more evil than the other, and he started orchestrating this thing.
And why wouldn't he have taken more of the things? So all to say it's confusing to the police. And you can rationalize, oh, it looks like this. Who knows how you would act if you're a burglar? Also, most robberies, people don't carry guns. So that also is another element that the police are like, this is not totally adding up. But they're not ruling out the robbery.
And the candlestick, I would think like if Gregg were home and he was creeping around, like was he the one holding the candlestick?
Sure.
Are his fingerprints on this candlestick or someone else's?
Yes. Additionally, there was no forced entry, which maybe during this time they left the doors unlocked. Who knows?
Oh, yeah.
So like I said, they don't rule burglary gone wrong out. So they continue their investigation and they speak with Gregg Smart's wife, Pamela Smart. And Pamela Smart is an emotional wreck, as you can imagine. Her husband has just been murdered and she is the one who had discovered his body. But she's also eager to speak with the police. And as she speaks with them, she gains composure. Seems to be like fine.
It's not like she's had a full day of being like...
No, it's instant.
Yeah.
Which again, you don't know how people will act in traumatic events.
That's true.
Some people are like, let's solve this.
Which, yeah. I know how... I mean, I've never luckily been in this situation, but I know how I react in really serious situations, and I'm immediately composed and like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is like A, B, C, D. And then I break down a while
later,
after when
it hits you.
But like to be able to flip between the two so quickly.
Yeah.
Is a little sus.
A little sus. But according to Pamela, she had been at a school-related meeting and returned home a little after 10 p.m. Immediately upon entering the home, she saw it was ransacked and in disarray. And that was when she saw her husband Gregg's body. Terrified and in shock, Pamela ran from her house, screaming that her husband had been murdered, and her screams were so loud that neighbors come out to check on her, and then another neighbor immediately picks up the phone and calls 911, reports that a woman is outside saying her husband has been killed. Mm-hmm. That evening, Pamela herself is convinced and also very, very intensely saying this is a botched burglary. Like she's
so she has her own theory and she's trying really hard to sell it.
Yeah. In the end, the true story of the events of May 1st, 1990 would be a lot wilder than a case of a robbery gone wrong. But to understand what really happened and how it all unfolded, let's learn more about Gregg and Pamela Smart.
Pamela Smart was born Pamela Ann Wojcik on August 16th, 1967 in Coral Gables, Florida. Coral Gables was an affluent neighborhood just outside of Miami, and it was the kind of place where people emphasized status, appearance, success. So it kind of makes sense, like the direction of what Pamela wanted to do in terms of her own life.
Yep.
And so this became vitally important to Pamela. Ever since she was a little girl, she knew two things about herself. She liked attention and she knew how to get it. Wherever she went, whatever she did, Pamela wanted to be and was center stage. She was naturally outgoing, she was beautiful, she was popular, and her parents were well off. So she was relatively used to getting what she wanted. When she was a teenager, her family moved from Florida to New Hampshire. Oh my God, talk about culture shock. And it was here that she attended Pinkerton Academy. And she had really good grades. She joined the cheerleading team. So again, everything she could ever want. And I'm sure she was like the cool tan girl from Florida.
Yes.
Who serves. I don't know if she actually served. But there was one thing that Pamela craved more than anything else, and that was to be a famous broadcast personality.
It's always so interesting when someone specifically wants to be a famous blank. You know, it's not like, I want to be a broadcast personality or be on TV, be a reporter, journalist, whatever. It's like, no, I want to be a famous, which I'm always like, well, where are your priorities?
Was it the fame, or do you just hope to be so excellent at something that it
was the fame.
It was the fame.
Yes.
And it's also funny to me because like a broadcast personality in New Hampshire, like the news in New England is extremely different than the news. Like when we moved to LA, I remember my parents coming out for the first time and turning on the news and being like, oh my God, the blowouts, the Botox, the beauty, skin tight dresses. It was like you're watching an actual show. Like it was news, but it was also like entertainment.
Yeah.
And that is not what you get in New England.
Well, I don't think she ever wanted to stay in New England.
Yeah, she was forced to go to New Hampshire. But she was very determined to achieve this goal. And after graduating from Pinkerton Academy, Pamela decided to move back to Florida for college. Makes sense. Mm-hmm. So she began in 1984, she began at Florida State University. She majored in communications. all with the goal, again, of becoming a famous TV reporter and then naturally a broadcast personality. So it was here at FSU that her dreams started to really feel like reality. She dove into her studies. She even hosted her own radio show, which is this is like the most surprising fact to me about Pamela. The radio show was called Metal Madness, and she called herself the Maiden of Metal.
I love it so much.
She played metal music.
Right.
That's so shocking.
I know.
The cheerleader who wants to be a famous television
loves metal
personality.
music.
Who's a metalhead.
I would love to, I'm sure somewhere there's records of this radio show.
Probably.
Like I would love to listen. What was she like?
I mean, listening to any college radio station is it's amazing. And it's also a little
know.
trippy because it's like, it's so diverse. It's like whatever
Music they want to play.
Funky music the person wants to lean into as their radio personality.
Well, now I always think of Robin from Stranger Things when I think of a radio show. So
right. Hey, sometimes it does turn into something. We know someone who had a radio show and then
Whitney Thore.
My Big Fat Fabulous Life turned into a TV show. So you never know.
It happens.
2 years into her studies, in 1986, Pamela returned home to New Hampshire for winter break. And this is when she met Gregg Smart.
Gregory, or Gregg as he went by, Smart, was born in New Hampshire in 1965. And he grew up in a middle-class working family and was more laid back, easygoing, friendly, didn't have the big aspirations that Pamela did. Like, his dad owned an insurance business and it was expected that Gregg would one day take over that business.
Yeah, it was more like realistic and local. She wanted to be famous.
Right. And he was fine.
Weren't you voted most likely to be famous?
Most likely to be on a reality TV show.
Oh, Montserrat. Okay. Yeah.
I was going through some shit in high school.
Which reality TV show is really the question. Yeah. Like, what do people think?
And hey, it happened. Look at me now.
We're on My Big Fat Fabulous Life.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, Gregg is growing. He grows up kind of like his life is laid out in front of him. He's going to take over his dad's insurance business, whatnot. But in 1986, when he meets Pamela Smart, he's not that interested in that. He's still young and he is 21. He has long curly hair. He loves metal music. Shared interest. And he's just like more laissez-faire, trying to enjoy life, not really quite ready to settle into that insurance life that is laid out for him. So the Maiden of Metal meets Gregg Smart, 21 years old. He's 2 years older than Pamela. He's handsome. He has long hair. I'm going to really emphasize the long hair here because it is important.
Palm's important.
Yes.
Which you're like, why when you get there?
And she falls hard. And then Gregg falls for her too. I mean, Pamela Smart is this beautiful, witty, charming, gorgeous woman.
And she's got that edgy music taste.
Exactly.
Cool girl.
So Gregg and Pamela start a relationship, and by February of 1986, they are fully dating. But Pamela is still fully determined to chase her dream, so she goes back to Florida. They start a long-distance relationship.
And Pamela, she manages to juggle all of it. So she's the long-distance relationship. She has to finish college. She has her radio show. Everything is going to plan. In 1988, 21-year-old Pamela graduated from FSU with her bachelor's in communications. And despite still dating Gregg, they managed to make it all the way, who was in New Hampshire working for his dad. Pamela did not make any plans to go back to New Hampshire. She was determined to stay in Florida, follow her dreams. I understand that. That's literally probably her only chance of.
And I also appreciate that about her because I feel like there's so many people who do give up their dreams for a relationship. And she's just like, nope, this is my priority.
Right. But he can move to Florida.
Right.
What's keeping him?
Insurance.
There's not like famous broadcast positions in New Hampshire.
I know.
There are insurance companies in Florida.
But not his dad's. Either way.
Must you be with daddy the whole time? Okay. Anyway, things didn't go as planned. Up until this point in Pamela's life, things had been pretty easy for her, right? So she always got what she wanted. And so she expected career-wise, she's graduated, she has a degree, she has the look, she's got the personality.
Her history with the radio show. Like,
right.
She's got experience.
Everything's going to fall into place. Like she manifested it. It's going to magically materialize for her, right?
Right.
But it was in fact near impossible for her to find a job in broadcasting.
Yeah.
So she just kept being rejected. And that was really hard for her because real life and the reality of being an adult just came crashing down on her.
Which I understand. And I think in my older years, my wisdom that I have gathered, it is one of those things where rejection should be seen as redirection. But Pamela was like really frustrated by this. And I think because
But also,
it was
I
such a
feel-
difference from what she had experienced her whole life.
Right. But like the redirection part, like I wouldn't necessarily say just because you're getting a few no's means that you're not on the right path.
No, I mean like that wasn't the right company for you.
Oh, yeah.
But I also...
I once heard you get 100 no's for every yes.
Yes.
So I guess like depending on what career, if you're choosing an extremely difficult career path that's super competitive, I feel like probably FSU, I don't know if FSU like did any of this or if this was just fully on Pamela for not really like clocking it. But I feel like they should have put more emphasis on how difficult it is to actually get a career in certain positions and like mentally prepare students for.
Here's what I'll say about that. And I think this is just the world that Pamela grew up in. And a lot of this is hearsay and based on testimony people gave kind of after all of the case unfolded. But there were a lot of people who suggested that Pamela was the type of person who didn't take anything less than she thought she deserved. So she wasn't necessarily the type of person who was like,
she's not going to start in the mailroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas that probably would have worked out for her. And those jobs probably were more available to her than, hey, oh, you graduated college? Great. Let's put you on TV right away.
Here you go. You're the new host of Good Morning America. Like, what?
Yeah. So I feel like she just kind of was not willing to accept things that could have helped her along the path.
Which made sense. So basically, after a few months with no luck, Pamela decided, okay, I'm going to move back to New Hampshire.
So by the end of 1988, Pamela is back in New Hampshire. She's close to her family. And for the first time since dating Gregg Smart back in 1986, they're right next to each other. They can actually date in person. But Pamela still carries hope for her dream job. And while she carries that, she does focus more time and energy onto her relationship with Gregg. And the two get married in May of 1989. They found a sensible 2-story condo in the affluent town of Derry and settled into their married life. And just a little side note, Gregg's parents lived in this same community.
Oh.
Which is also tragic to think about when the crime scene happened.
Yes.
And then they adopted a dog, a little Shih Tzu that Pamela named Halen after Van Halen. And they babied it as if it was their own child.
The firstborn.
The firstborn. Life in Derry was comfortable, but like you've insinuated so many times, it is not bustling with jobs that Pamela is after.
No. I don't think there's a single job Pamela would have wanted.
Right. And even if there are jobs, because of course there's local news and stuff, they're not the types of jobs that are going to give Pamela the fame that she's after.
She's looking for glamour.
She's looking for stardom, the spotlight.
She would have loved TikTok.
I know. So now this is where things really start to stray from the path that Pamela thought she was on, and I think is like a major turning point in the story and case. Without any major media jobs at her whim, Pamela accepts a position as a media coordinator / media services director for the local school district in Hampton, New Hampshire. And in all regards, it's not a bad job. Like a lot of people would be very excited about this.
Yeah. And anyone who knows New Hampshire knows Hampton does have things to report on.
Do they? I don't know anything about it.
It's like the reputation, like Hampton Beach. It's like a little bit seedier.
Oh, okay. But so
they have a great seafood festival every year. Such good seafood.
Interesting. Fun facts about New Hampshire.
Fun facts.
But so Pamela's job here would be producing educational videos for the schools in the area. And she also got her own secretary, which
wow,
first job out of college, you have your own secretary.
Dang.
That's bougie. I was the assistant to the assistant. Like that was my first job. But she obviously feels this major sense of disappointment. It's not the job she wanted. It's not giving her the visibility or the attention or the fame she wanted. She was supposed to be famous. She was supposed to be a star. But Pamela did do as most people try to in moments of disappointment. She tries to find the bright side. So she's like, if I work as hard as I can and really dive into this work, maybe it will serve as like a stepping stone and like a next step on the ladder to what she actually wants.
But her career was not her only problem. Her relationship, her marriage with Gregg was not quite turning out how she expected either. So when she and Gregg first fell in love, remember, he was very free-spirited. They had the same taste in metal music. He had long hair. But then when they got married, he started to change, right? So he started wearing suits. He's in the insurance business.
Yeah.
He started throwing himself into the company. And worst of all, he cut his hair.
Tragic. according to Pamela.
It is not tragic, but like for a split second, I was like, well, part of me understands when people have beards and then they shave off their beards and
They look like a different person.
Who are you?
Yeah.
And but it doesn't change your love for that person. It just takes, visibly, there's an adjustment period to recognize this new face.
I feel like it served as a metaphor for everything else that was going on in her life.
Yeah.
Like this massive change.
Well, and also she wanted things to be a certain way. And if it like things didn't reflect her, like whatever she painted her like dream life.
Her vision board?
Her vision board?
Yeah.
Short hair was not in her vision board, not for her husband.
Not on her bingo card for the year.
No. And this is like such a small detail, but basically she was like, he's just like every other person now. Like there's nothing special about Gregg. He has short hair.
And he's just an insurance businessman
Yeah,
now.
he's like every other business guy.
Yeah.
So kind of that passion and the excitement for life that she imagined him still having and them having together. Him cutting his hair just shattered that whole illusion. He's just a basic New Hampshire boy.
Basic
It's just a basic According to Pamela, right before their first wedding anniversary, Gregg, see, this is why we shouldn't be laughing leading into the sentence.
I know.
He admitted he was having an affair. Unfortunately, this can't 100% be confirmed because
Gregg's dead. Sorry to say it so bluntly.
But according to Pamela, it is true that he was having an affair and that he admitted this. So as you can imagine, another fracture to this life that she had built up and imagined for herself.
Yeah.
So Gregg, he expresses remorse. He's so sorry. He's full of guilt and regret. And oh my God, what can he do to win her back? He promises to be better. He's going to be a better partner. He's doubling down on all of this with Pamela. But Pamela is so hurt, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And she isn't really sure how to process the reality of this disappointment and how her life is turning out. All she knows is she is not happy.
And at this point, Gregg is really trying to button up his life and become a responsible adult. And he wants to build a future. That's why he came forward. He confessed to Pamela, according to Pamela. And he wants to start a family with Pamela. He wants to have a child. And I don't know how they didn't talk about this before getting married. Again, like a lot of this story is shared by Pamela after the fact, so I don't know like the specific details. But apparently they had never talked about it. Gregg approaches the topic with Pamela and he's like, hey, I just cheated on you. Let's have a baby. I mean, not in that way. But like, yeah, he's excited. He wants to have a kid with her. And Pamela immediately shuts it down. She's like, absolutely not. I do not want children.
Yeah, it's not that
I do
she
not
just
want a
doesn't want
kid.
them with Gregg. She says she doesn't want kids.
Right. She's like, no.
Which maybe that was his assumption, that just like all women want kids.
Sure. Totally. And they also got married.
But like,
yes, they dated for like a couple of years long distance. But like when she moved back, they got married pretty quickly right away. So they probably didn't have those tough conversations.
Yeah. Although it's interesting because like if he knew much about like being a very famous broadcast personality, a lot of them are working super early in the morning. So if you're having kids and your spouse is leaving for work at 3 a.m., isn't that going to be something that you think about?
Well, and I don't think Pamela ever like outwardly said this, but I do think that played a major role in like her not wanting kids, is that if she had a child, she felt like she would have to give up her career or her dreams, which we know is not true. You don't have to give up your dreams and your goals to have children. You can have both.
No, there's just more planning that goes into having kids.
Exactly. But either way, she didn't want kids. And now I think we can see by this time in her life, by the fall of 1989, Pamela is struggling. She feels trapped in her marriage. She feels trapped in an unsatisfactory job and just overall is in a life that she feels like she didn't sign up for.
And it's around this time, in the fall of 1989, that Pamela is asked to work on a project through her job at the school district, and it's called Project Self-Esteem, which she needed. Project Self-Esteem was a school-affiliated drug awareness and prevention program, and it operated in New Hampshire during this time. And the purpose of the program was basically to educate students on the dangers of drug use, promote self-confidence, and use peer-to-peer mentoring to educate the students. Yeah. So it involved a lot of group meetings and planning sessions, presentations, outreach. So students volunteered, adult staff oversaw the operation, and it was something to like throw herself into, to really get involved in, right? So her role was media coordinator. She was the perfect candidate to oversee this group, and she worked alongside the students to help produce the media related to it. So like a small little
smidge taste
of
what she really wanted.
Just a little something to give her to nibble on.
And I do feel like this is a important distinction to make because a lot of people confuse the Pamela Smart story saying that she was a teacher. And she was not. She was never a teacher to these students. She worked for like the school board and then
was
volunteered.
An adult in a position of power within the school district.
Yes, that part is true. That is very true. But I feel like people play into the trope of like the teacher-student situation, but she was never actually a teacher. So Pamela starts attending weekly meetings at the Winnicott High School to oversee the group. And it is here that the guidance counselor introduces her to the students in the group. And there are a bunch of students. But there's one group in particular that actually take interest in Pamela, and then Pamela takes interest in specifically. It's a group of sophomores, all of them 15. And when they first meet Pamela, who's 21 at the time, they see her as this young, beautiful woman. She's got stories of living in Florida, being a radio host. And while Pamela herself feels like her life is a major disappointment, these high schoolers idolize her.
Right. She's so cool.
So cool. And she likes the same music that they do. Metal music. At 21, Pamela is old enough to seem worldly, but young enough to still have some of the same interests as the students. She loves metal bands like Van Halen, the Motley Crue. It makes her seem edgy. And Pamela loves to talk to the kids about these shared interests. Also, her license plate said Halen, she had a customized plate. She loved Van Halen. That's also her dog's name.
What's up with Derry, New Hampshire and everyone liking metal here?
Is that other people do?
Well, they have the same
kids.
Music.
It's the 90s.
Yeah, I guess.
2000s.
In the 2000s, I got my iTunes taken away from me because I didn't understand purchasing on iTunes, and I bought the entire discography of Queen.
Yep.
$200.
I was a LimeWire girl.
I turned to LimeWire and FrostWire after that, and then just broke my parents' computer.
Whoopsie, sorry.
More expensive than $200 on iTunes.
But okay, so yeah, to this group of high schoolers, Pamela is a rock star. And I'm sure you can imagine how good this felt to Pamela's ego, where she feels like she's a failure. All of a sudden, she's put into a situation where people are idolizing her. She felt important. And I remember when I was in middle school and high school, and I had this one teacher who was super young, probably right out of college. The boys would propose to her on a daily basis.
Oh, that's so uncomfortable.
Right. But they were obsessed with her.
Right. Yeah.
And I even had male teachers that I was ooh, he seems cool. But
yeah.
It's just because they're in a power position.
Or just I feel younger teachers too you feel they're more relatable to you.
Yeah.
And also they're more likely to tell you life stories that you'll find interesting.
Totally.
They're more recent.
Yes. So yes, Pamela is 21 years old. She is older and in a very different place. Imagine 21 and 15 they feel worlds apart. You're in a very different place in your life.
15, you're a child.
Oh, child.
You haven't even reached the height that you will be in adultôt.
I did.
You can't.
I was as tall as I am now when I was in 5th grade.
Okay, but boys, this is not true for boys.
True. Okay, so amongst this specific group of sophomore boys is a 15-year-old boy, again, 15 years old. His name is William, goes by Billy Flynn. And he takes one look at Pamela and is gobsmacked. He turns to his friend sitting next to him and he goes, "I'm in love." Which is totally valid and innocent. He's 15. Of course, he's allowed to have a crush.
Yeah, he can have crushes.
Yeah.
Adults can't have crushes back on kids. That is extremely inappropriate. But after meeting her, Billy makes every excuse to become closer and closer to Pamela. So he offers to help out in the classroom, to do errands for her, anything that could buy him a few extra minutes to talk to her and maybe be alone with her. Pamela is loving the attention. I'm sure she knew all the rumors about all the kids having crushes on her and probably played into it.
100%.
Yeah. She wants more attention, not just from Billy, but from all of the kids. She's eating this up.
And so as a part of her job, the school gives Pamela an intern assistant who is a student. So this is another 15-year-old student named Cecilia Pierce.
I just so wish another adult was here.
I know. The thing is that there were other adults around. Cecilia idolizes Pamela. She also wants a career in journalism and saw her future self in Pamela. So again, even though Pamela doesn't see herself as the successful person she wanted, here are all these kids who are now oh my gosh, you're everything I want to be, which makes her feel a little less about herself.
Right.
To Cecilia,
I did have a dazzling, cool life.
Right. To Cecilia, this job seems like a hurdle on the way to stardom. She thought it was exciting, and Pamela loved how much Cecilia looked up to her. Cecilia's role quickly became less of an assistant and more of like a confidant and friend. And slowly but surely, the lines between professionalism and friendship blurred. And again, like while Pamela wasn't exactly a teacher, she was absolutely in a position where she should be mentoring the children, attending to their needs. But then she started opening up to them. It's like the Susan Polk case.
Yes.
Where the therapist started to confide in her, his client.
And also just like the need for attention and whatnot. It's upsetting because it's like, she's 21, she's an adult, she shouldn't be doing this. These are kids. But at the same time, from like a 15-year-old, I can see them being like, okay, well, she's the same age as my older brother or something 100%. Like that, you know?
Yeah. But so while Cecilia starts opening up to Pamela, all of a sudden, Pamela starts opening up to Cecilia, a 15-year-old, and she starts telling her everything, very candidly talking about her passions, her dreams, and her frustrations with her marriage. To Cecilia, that felt exciting. But I think we can all agree, I know we can all agree that this is not healthy. It is a violation of like what a teacher or a person in power should ever do with a child.
An adult, maybe, just blanket statement there.
Pamela could not get enough from Cecilia or from Billy, and Billy's constantly hanging around talking to Pamela. And similar to the lines being blurred with Cecilia, these lines start being blurred with Billy as well. Billy also has long, floppy hair. Told you the hair would be important. When she looked at him, this 15-year-old child, mind you, she saw the kind of guy that she thought Gregg was when she first met Gregg. And the more time Pamela spent with Billy, the more she started to think about her life as it currently stood. She was not destined to stay here, working in a high school, being a nobody. She was supposed to be a star, and maybe, just maybe, this 15-year-old Billy Flynn could help her with that.
High school crushes are unlike anything else. Love and romance, they're new things, fresh, unexplored. Hormones are running unchecked, making you feel like every new feeling is extreme, it's urgent, it's all-encompassing. Teenage love burns with a fire that is white hot. It's impossible to ignore, it's impossible to stop. The heart beats fast and wild like a runaway train, and that is how Billy Flynn feels every time he sees Pamela Smart. For months, he hasn't been able to keep himself from her. He lingers at the end of Project Self-Esteem meetings to see if she might need him, maybe to carry her stuff to her car. He makes excuses to stop by her office. All of his thoughts are consumed with Pamela's face, her hair, her eyes, her smile, probably her smell. He has no idea if Pamela feels the same way about him. All he knows is that for the last few weeks, they have definitely gotten closer. She's been helping him and his friends on a video assignment about orange juice. Half the time they work on the assignment, but mostly they just talk. The more they spend time together, the more Billy falls in love with Pamela. But he never makes a move. She is an adult, a supervisor of their group after all, and for now, Billy will take what he can get. So, on this gray February day of 1990, he shows up at Pamela's office, like always, for the project. But when his eyes meet Pamela's, he almost forgets to breathe. Her gaze is different today. It's charged, intense. It's like she's looking at him in a way that he's been looking at her for a long time. After a few excruciating moments of silence, Pamela asks Billy the question that he has always dreamed of asking her. Do you think about me when I'm not around? Because I think about you all the time.
I mean, vomit.
If another 15-year-old said that, you'd be like, yes! But this is an adult.
It is so inappropriate. And now at this time, Pamela is 22. Billy is 15.
Yeah.
We don't need to say anything more. That in itself is wrong. It's actually illegal. Vomit.
This is so upsetting.
And
did things that... Oh, maybe I shouldn't put my school under hot water. But I feel like growing up, there were like a lot of examples. There were definitely rumors about one of the art teachers and this girl who just moved to school, which now I like looking back, I think about it every once in a while. I'm like, I should have told someone because there were so many rumors about this 15-year-old.
Well, you were also a child. Like that, you should never have been put in a position like that.
Okay, but I was multiple times because I was hit on by like 3 separate teachers throughout middle school and high school. And it took me a half a second to report them.
Well, glad that you reported them.
Yeah, I know I did. Did they get fired? No, they didn't.
That's also crazy. I always think about Pretty Little Liars and Ezra and Arya's relationship, which at the time watching that show, I was like, Ezra's so hot.
Yeah,
this is such a beautiful romance. But again, it's TV versus this is reality.
I know. My brother had an issue too. My mom had to like fully work with the school to try to resolve it.
What is wrong with people?
Because there's this woman who's being really creepy. Was she fired? No, she wasn't.
Okay, so this is just awful, horrendous, happening in real life. Hate it. But yeah, here's Pamela in a position of power. No, she's not his teacher, but she is working on behalf of the district and is supposed to be supervising this group of high school kids. And Pamela is married, let us not forget.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wrong after wrong after wrong. These are just like major red flags. We should just throw the handcuffs on her already, but unfortunately we do not. So now, with this sentence that Pamela has stated out loud to Billy, 15 years old, she fully begins entertaining a romance with 15-year-old Billy Flynn. Also, before she ever said and asked Billy he thinks about her, she had already crossed the lines. She started hanging out with Billy and his friends, going to the mall with them. Inappropriate.
It's so wild because she cares so much about attention and fame and being thought of as this wonderful, popular, awesome person. And it's did the thought of shame never cross her mind? I would almost think the fear of being caught and the change of her image might deter her enough from wanting to do this. But it almost seems like she just was so invincible.
She was wrapped up
here
in her own psychological delusion. And I think she just got so obsessed with the attention that nothing else mattered.
Kind of seems like a theme for this season, doesn't it?
Yeah. She clearly knew how Billy felt, which is why she asked that question.
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone can imagine how 15-year-old Billy felt because he was probably freaking out because he was oh my God, I felt the same way about you forever. I mean, the first thing he said was, I'm in love when he saw her, right? So this is everything. This is so exciting. And the conversation that followed would change their relation dynamic forever. So it turned first very emotionally intimate. So she would confess her feelings. She told Billy that she didn't know what to do because she's already married to her husband, Gregg.
Which let's just highlight this because immediately she presents an obstacle to her and Billy actually being together. She is I wish we could be together, but my husband is in the way.
Yeah. And Billy left Pamela's office that day feeling like he was floating on a cloud, right? He's so close to being with her. They didn't kiss or anything. They didn't even hold hands. But to him, the future is so bright, right? This is his future girlfriend. They're basically together already. And Pamela essentially told him that she feels the exact same way, just in maybe a little different way than Billy.
Yeah, in her mind, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot more strategy here.
There's something else at play.
And so now I think we could take a minute to talk about Billy Flynn because this is a really big deal for him. He also didn't have the easiest upbringing. And so I think this attention from Pamela also gave him something he was missing for some time in his life.
Well, and also let's think about his friends. He was very vocal. There's other people that are hanging out with them out in the mall and stuff. And so he's probably getting a lot of validation and attention from his friends too.
Who are all egging it on.
Exactly. I doubt that there was much vocalized concern.
Right. And as we'll see in a bit, everyone in this group seemed to really idolize Pamela. It's not just Billy. So Billy was born and raised in New Hampshire in a middle-class family. And unfortunately, he did face a lot of abuse at the hand of his father, who tragically, when Billy was just 13 years old, so 2 years before meeting Pamela, he died in a tragic motorcycle accident. So this fractured the kind of already false version of stability he had, but it's shattered. His father is now dead. Now his mom has to pick up multiple jobs in order to make ends meet. And Billy didn't really know how to process the loss. And he didn't really have anyone to talk to about it or to lean on. So he began getting into trouble. He became impulsive, directionless. And Billy's mom once reported that despite Billy appearing to be a great, easygoing kid, he apparently had a temper at home. There was a darker side to him. He and his friends would break into cars. They would commit petty crimes. And they started goofing off in school to the point where, and I really do appreciate this, authority figures and school staff members did intervene, which is why Billy ended up in Project Self-Esteem.
I was just going to say, if you think about the kids that get put in here first.
It was kind of hey, you used to get such good grades. We know that you're dealing with the loss of your father. We can't force you to do this because this is a volunteer-based group, but please join
It
this
could be
group.
good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So him and his friends all joined it. So psychologically, from the ages 13 to 15, the adults in Billy's life had been, in his mind, treating him like a child, not really showing up for him in the way that he needed. And so when he starts this group and he meets Pamela, an adult who treats him like an equal and gives him attention, validation, and purpose that he wanted, he becomes so willing to do what she asks of him.
Is she an adult treating him like an equal, or is she pretending to be a kid? It's also my question.
Right.
Does she seem like an equal because she's
Acting
being
childish.
super inappropriate and like being acting like a child?
Yep.
Anyway, Billy was not the only person who felt this way, right? So like we mentioned before, Pamela began to fully integrate herself into Billy's life. She was befriending his friends, hanging out at the mall,
Just the image of them going to the mall together is crazy.
Yeah.
I
know.
could not fathom, even if like a bunch of kids made me feel like the coolest person in the world, I could not fathom getting my butt out of bed on a weekend to go hang out with them at a mall.
Of Auntie Anne's. Like, let's go walk through Journeys. Like, what? That's
You couldn't
21.
pay me.
No, I was living at happy hour at that point.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. Obviously, the integration into the friend group. But then there was also Cecilia Pierce, right? So Pamela's intern, who is a child, another 15-year-old.
Yeah.
There's Vance J.R. Latime Jr. and Raymond Fowler. And they, like you were saying, all of them idolize Pamela. They are just so infatuated with her. And basically, they seemed kind of like willing to do anything to be just as cool as Pamela.
Which I don't know if you can relate to, but I can. Like when I was in middle school, like I just desperately wanted to be accepted and seen as cool. Like I feel like and also at that time, like you're still figuring out who you are. And you're like, I'll speak for myself. Like you're trying to step into a role in a way. And I feel like I bend over backwards to kind of like make people like me. I wanted that.
Yeah.
You don't relate. I can tell.
I don't relate to it. But like I can in a way. Like I don't think I relate in the way that like the kids at my school operated as much. I also went to like a kind of hippie school where we like called every teacher by their first name, and it like
So Vermont of you.
It was like semi-blurred because it was like everyone was treated. You already came in almost with like the respect that he felt like he hadn't gotten anywhere in his life was like already kind of built into our school district, where it's like most teachers went by their first name. Like it was very much like, I treat you like an equal and you're an adult to prepare you for the world, to like hold your own.
Yeah. I mean, also like even with my sister, like I was like so desperate to like be cool in the eyes of my sister that like I was like love me, you know?
Please hang out with me, Lexi. Yeah, so all these kids were feeling that way towards Pamela.
Yeah.
We understand. She was older, she was cool, she was edgy, and she was also giving them the validation that they so desperately wanted. So like she's feeding into it too, right? And pretty much every single one of these kids, all 5 of them, would do anything to keep that validation from her. And it's so unfair too, because like if you think about the kids' backgrounds that are like, yes, it's volunteer based, so maybe not everyone has had some hardships in their childhood, but like a lot of the kids are going there to have this sort of like redirection in their life, and she's preying on it.
Exactly.
So she basically manipulated them and their desire for attention and affection and used that to coerce them into doing whatever she wanted. So basically she groomed Billy and she groomed his friends.
All of them. Yeah.
All of them. It didn't even start with Billy.
Okay, so now it's February of 1990. Pamela has made it very clear she has feelings for 15-year-old Billy Flynn, and she has also made it very clear that the only thing standing in the way is her husband, Gregg Smart, planting the seeds. Her and Billy spend more and more time together, but at first they don't cross any physical boundaries. I mean, all lines have been crossed at this point, except for the physical. Pamela continues to complain about her relationship with Gregg. She tells Billy that Gregg cheated on her, that he's controlling and manipulative. So she's painting Gregg as a villain to Billy. And how is Billy to know anything else?
No. And it's like, he's probably just becoming more and more angry on her behalf, right? Like you believe, well, she's an adult. Why would she lie to him?
And also now he's in a role of comforting her. Like if Pamela's crying to 15-year-old Billy, who loves her, is like, let me take care of you. Let me help you. I'm so sorry. I wish I could fix this for you.
Yeah, I want to protect you.
And it seemed like the more that Pamela complained about her husband, the closer her and Billy became. Their bond was growing closer and closer until one afternoon, Pamela is hanging out with Billy at his house on his bed, listening to Motley Crue, and they finally kissed. Unfortunately, there were no adults present enough in Billy's life to know about this relationship or tell him that it was dangerous and unhealthy and intervene. And also, Pamela made sure that no one else knew, except Cecilia, her 15-year-old assistant, which we'll get to more on that.
The first person she groomed.
Yes. Either way, the relationship between 22-year-old Pamela and 15-year-old Billy is now like fully violating all boundaries, all lines, and it is romantic.
And at every step, Pamela would tell Billy just how unhappy she was in her marriage. That was something that came up time and time and time again, and how much she liked Billy. And it was impossible for her to picture a world without Billy. Like they should be together. And then in March of 1990, while Gregg was out of town for a work conference, Pamela actually invited Billy and Cecilia, the two of them, over to her condo to watch a movie. So she, an adult woman with her husband out of town, invited two children over to her condo to watch a movie together.
Even worse, she picked a steamy rated R film called 9.5 Weeks about a woman who has a passionate affair with a man. An extremely inappropriate movie to watch with two underage teenagers, but obviously Pamela didn't care about that, and neither did Cecilia or Billy, who were probably excited to watch a rated R movie.
Right.
Like there was like this thrill about it. Oh, again, Pamela is so cool. She's letting us watch this. She's inviting us to her condo. Like how sophisticated an adult. After they watched the movie, Pamela asks Cecilia if she wouldn't mind walking her dog, Halen. So Cecilia takes the dog out of the house, and with Cecilia gone, Pamela brings Billy upstairs into her bedroom. She changes into lingerie and recreates the striptease from the movie they had just watched. And I feel like we all know where this is going, but like major content warning. For the first time, she and Billy have sex. It was the first time Billy had ever had sex with anyone. So let us be very, very clear. Billy is a minor, and the first time he is ever having sex is statutory rape.
Oh my God.
But for Billy,
throw up.
This is why I said that part and you didn't.
I know. Yeah. We've learned for past episodes that you have to say some of the hard stuff.
But for Billy, this is a sign that this relationship is the real deal. And it endears him to Pamela even more. He's like, we are in love. We are destined to be together.
Mm-hmm. What they didn't know at the time was that Cecilia actually returned from walking the dog, and she was kind of witness to this. So she went upstairs, she peered into the bedroom, and she saw everything. But clearly that didn't really matter because Pamela and Cecilia are friends, right? Like,
well, she invited her over and then like sent her outside. Like walking a dog doesn't take that long.
Right. It's weird. It's like
Pamela doesn't care about getting caught, clearly.
And also, I just have so many questions about like, what did she want from Cecilia? Like, it almost feels like the lines were about to cross there too, because she also was showing her the explicit film. Like, why the two of them? Why did Cecilia need to be there at all?
A manipulative tactic to try to like normalize it to Cecilia.
But for what reason?
So that she could make sure,
to include Cecilia,
but to make sure she has control over Cecilia too.
Oh, it's just all wrong. It's just all wrong. So after this night, Pamela and Billy started meeting regularly to have sex. Their relationship escalated in a few ways. So basically, we know physically it escalated, but also so did Pamela's grooming and the tactics that she was using. So she began to complain more and more about her marriage with Gregg. And this time she really would emphasize how cruel Gregg was. It wasn't just that she's unhappy, he's in the way of them two being together. It was, he's this terrible person to me and I'm scared. And she'd cry to Billy and she would tell him that Gregg hit her, that he was threatening her.
Right. So now it's no longer just she's upset and unhappy in the marriage. She's painting Gregg as even more villainous and dangerous.
Yeah. Which like, that wasn't true.
Right. As far as we know.
As far as we know that, yeah. So she was lying. Billy would then encourage her to leave Gregg because he's 15. It seems more black and white to him. Like if you're unhappy, if this person's scaring you and hurting you, leave, right? And she's like, it doesn't work like that. Gregg made it very clear if she ever tried to divorce him, he would leave her with absolutely nothing and that he would follow her all over town and make it impossible for her to ever move on, to ever have a boyfriend. Basically, like she couldn't divorce him or he would ruin her life and like stalk her forever. So that was basically her reasoning to this 15-year-old Billy as to why she couldn't leave.
And I think it is important to state that we don't know whether or not these are true. Again, because Gregg is not here to tell his side of the story.
Right.
I do think that Gregg and Pamela, based on testimonies, they did fight a lot to the point where Pamela and Gregg would like call Gregg's parents and like complain about one another a little bit. So it wasn't the healthiest relationship in terms of communicating with one another.
Well, and I'm just thinking about like on the weekends when you're normally wanting to spend time with your family or your spouse. She's going to the mall to hang out with
15-year-olds.
Like almost middle schoolers. Like they're barely into high school.
So all we do know is that Pamela was very unhappy in her marriage and wanted out of it, and starts to tell Billy that he could save her. Only Billy could save her. Do you want to know how? Well, Pamela told Billy that Billy had to get rid of Gregg for her.
And so Billy at first is like, okay, this is just a dramatic phrase, right? Like this is just some weird...
It's a joke.
It's a joke. It's a dramatic comment she's making because how could she possibly be asking me to kill her husband? Like that's just in the movies, right? That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that is exactly what Pamela was asking Billy to do. In fact, she continued making comments like this, even going as far as telling Billy that the only way the two of them could ever be together is if Gregg is dead. So huge emphasis on him being killed and dead. Then a few months into their relationship, Pamela said she wouldn't have sex with Billy anymore unless he agreed to do the job of killing her husband. And that if he really loved her, he would do this for her.
This is why it's so strategic on Pamela's part. It's grooming. She took the time to basically make Billy fall so deeply in love with her that he would do anything for her. And remember, Billy used to show up in the classroom being like, what can I help you with? Can I like carry your stuff to the car? Like, how can I help you? What favors can I do? And slowly over time, Pamela would take and make it normalize him doing favors for her to the point
this
that...
This is like not a favor though. This is...
No. But this threat of losing Pamela is like so terrifying to Billy now at this point that he would rather kill Gregg than lose Pamela.
Right. Because now she's also like I'm sure to him it's not about sex. It's about just like feeling accepted and intimacy too. So it's like she's threatening to rip away everything.
Also, he's 15. He has just had sex for the first time. Like already that is such a complicated relationship. Mm-hmm. And the hormones and the like way it impacts your brain and the chemicals that are flowing. Like,
and I'm sure part of him knew that there wasn't something quite right with this. So he's... Yeah. Oh my gosh. Ooh. But he said he would do it. He said he would kill Gregg.
So with that agreement, they begin planning immediately. I'm sure Pamela had put so much thought into this already, but she's like, plan. And there are a lot more details and information regarding the specifics of the plans and the attempts that came forth in the trial, but we'll talk about them briefly. So there are 3 attempts that we know of. Pamela knew she had to have an alibi. So she looked at her calendar and she found an evening that had a school district meeting. So the plan was for Billy and his friend, yes, Billy and his friend. It required Billy bringing in people to go attack Gregg Smart as he exited his vehicle while Pamela was at this meeting. Pamela tells Billy he needs a gun. So Billy recruits his friend Raymond to help him. When they couldn't track down a gun, they decided to use a hunting knife. But on the night of the planned murder, Billy and Raymond lose their nerve. They couldn't do it, which, of course, they know it's wrong.
Yeah.
But when Pamela gets home from her meeting to find her husband is still very much alive, she is furious. And as you can expect, and as Pamela has exhibited already, she turns it on Billy. And she's like, clearly, you don't love me. You would have done this if you loved me.
So messed up.
Yeah.
And I'm also just thinking about like his friends coming in. Like, what are they?
But they've already also been groomed by Pamela.
Right. I know, but they were just doing petty crimes before this. This is so much bigger. So Billy, after hearing this and like being basically like berated and threatened by Pamela, right?
The person he loves.
Mm-hmm. He's now apologizing profusely. He promised he would do it. And this brings us to murder plot attempt number 2. So this plan was a little bit more thought out, and it's actually pretty close to what eventually did end up happening. So again, the plan had to be executed on an evening where Pamela would be busy specifically with the school district. So there was another school district meeting, but this time Billy and his friends would sneak into Pamela's house before Gregg got there and wait for him, rob the place, and then kill Gregg when he returns. So the thought is making it look like a burglary gone wrong, which in the very beginning, that is what the crime scene kind of read as initially.
Yep.
So on the night of the planned murder, Billy and his friends drove to the Smart condo, but something was wrong. Gregg was already home. So again, they had to bail on the plans because it wouldn't quite work out.
Right. They were supposed to be there before Gregg got home.
Mm-hmm. Pamela, furious. Why is Gregg alive? So she again blew up at Billy And now we are at April of 1990, and Billy is begging Pamela to give him one more chance because she's like, I can't believe you failed me twice. Like, this is, you clearly don't love me.
She's withholding sex still. Like, she's very abusive.
But she agreed that she'd give him one more chance if he promised to not let her down.
I also it breaks my heart thinking of Gregg being at home and two boys just pulled outside and he's like going about his life normally. And these two boys were going to kill him. Like, this whole time, like, I just feel so bad for him. It is really
upsetting. True crime is rough.
It is. Okay, so this brings us to the third and final and tragic murder of Gregg Smart. This time, though, Billy decides he needs more help. So he brings in all of his friends, the same group that had already been groomed and endeared to Pamela. It's Raymond, Cecilia, JR, and Pete. 5 teenagers all agree to do this for Billy, for Pamela. And at first, when Billy brought it up to Cecilia, she thought he was joking. Like, she was like, what? We're not going to kill Pamela's husband. But then Billy told her it was very, very real, and she doesn't shy away from it.
Well, because also the narrative being pushed is she's in danger. So they're trying to save their friend.
Yes. And also now Cecilia is almost like team Pamela and Billy because Cecilia views Pamela as a friend. They've been talking about her relationship with Billy.
She was there the first time they ever got together. Like, she feels probably like semi-responsible or like a part of the relationship somehow.
So now the planning truly begins. Pamela, Billy, Cecilia, JR, Raymond, and Pete put it together. Pamela again tells them they need a gun because the knife was too messy. Plus, Pamela didn't want Gregg's blood all over her beautiful leather couch. Like, this also just shows how selfish Pamela is.
Yeah, she's...
Cecilia said she knew where they could get a gun. She knew apparently of a woman who kept one in the glove box. And remember, the boys used to break into cars. So like, they'll just break into her car. They do break into the car, but when they open the glove box, there's no gun. So they're like, shoot, where do we get a gun? JR knew his dad kept a gun in their home, so he offered to steal it for the crime. With that sorted out, Pamela instructed them once again that on the night of May 1st, 1990, she would be attending a school meeting, and it was then, while she was at the meeting, the teenage boys would sneak into Pamela's condo. She would leave the back door unlocked for them. They would ransack the place, wait for Gregg to get home, and once he came home, they were to kill him and get out of there. She also told them once they get out of there, she would handle the rest. Her stipulations were as follows. Do not turn the lights on and do not hurt the dog. Simple enough, right?
Yeah, it's just so mind-blowing that this...
It does remind me a little bit of the Slender Man case, like in the sense that these are still children who don't necessarily understand the repercussions of their actions.
Well, I just keep thinking about how it took 3 attempts for it to actually
3 attempts for it to never happen. I know.
Like, there was so much room for people to have found out what was going on, or someone to step forward, or someone to ask a question. And the fact that it just was able to continue for so long, like it does feel like Pamela was invincible and could get away with anything. Because I keep coming back to like, what was the true motive for her? Like, if she just left her husband normally.
I think she convinced herself she couldn't.
Because it's not like she cares about reputation, right? Because if she did, she wouldn't be raping a 15-year-old.
I can't speak to the psychology because I do not relate to it, but I'm sure there is someone out there who has done a full psychological analysis on Pamela Smart.
Right. Okay, so May 1st, 1990, around 8 p.m., while Pamela is at the school district meeting, Billy, Pete, JR, and Raymond climbed into JR's van and drove to Pamela Smart's condo. At around 8:30 p.m., they park outside the darkened condo, and Billy and Pete make their way around back, while JR and Raymond are staying in the car as lookout. They reach the back door. It's unlocked because Pamela kept it unlocked, promised that's how they would be able to get in. Billy and Pete immediately collect Halen, the dog, and put Halen in the basement.
Which I am glad that Halen was locked away, but it's just like this whole thing is so sad.
It's so,
yeah.
Just the whole, it's the whole thing. Everything about this case is upsetting and wrong. So the dog is now in the basement, and this is when they begin to ransack the condo. They threw whatever they could find onto the ground. They pocketed a couple pieces of jewelry, trying to make it seem like a robbery, trying to make it seem more legit. Billy and Pete also grabbed a few larger pieces of electronic equipment, and they dragged them to the back door to make it look like they were in the process of removing them, and then were interrupted, right? Because that's the whole
thing. Staging. Yeah.
It's staging. The boys actually found this part quite fun because they haven't done anything technically illegal yet because they were let in by the homeowner and told what to do.
It also shows how detached they are from the reality of it.
Right. Yeah, it's the theatrics of it all for them. And like this part seems fun. So they get to throw stuff around. They get to break whatever they want. Just teenage boys running amok in this condo with full permission to do it. Like that seems great. But by 9 p.m., the reality of why they're there begins to sink in. So they'd finished the ransacking and now they just had to sit there and wait for Gregg to return home.
The amount of time, I don't know the exact amount of time that they had to wait, but like it feels like enough time where they should have been like,
what are we doing?
We can't do this.
They took their positions in the dark, Billy behind the door, Pete on the stairs, and they waited.
I'm like literally thinking about when you play hide and seek and the anxiety you get hiding, waiting for your person to find you. Like that's anxiety I have playing hide and seek.
Right.
The feelings they must be feeling in this moment.
Oh my gosh. Even the people sitting in the car and like seeing him pull in and get home. Like I just can't believe no one panicked. And it is, but like, again, you made the comparison to the Slender Man case and it's like psychologically, like they're just so deep into this like new world and narrative that's been spun around them that it's like impossible to backtrack out of it.
Yeah.
So while they're waiting, they're debating how to kill Gregg. They consider bludgeoning him with a heavy looking candlestick, but very quickly they abandon that idea and they drop the candlestick onto the floor. So this is before Gregg has even entered the home.
But if you remember from the original crime scene that you narrated in the beginning, the candlestick that was found next to
was nearby
Gregg's body.
Yeah.
Soon after, they hear Gregg's car pull into the driveway and they hold their breath waiting. The second Gregg opens the door and turns on the foyer light, Billy jumps on top of him and Pete is not far behind. In seconds, they have knocked Gregg to the floor and they are like fully fighting. Gregg tries to resist and according to the boys, even tried to give them his wallet because he truly thought he was being robbed and he was like, take it, please, like take it.
Also, you're not expecting it to be teenage boys either. I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like
this next piece of information breaks my heart. It is one of those facts in this case that's like been up for debate. It does feel very dramatic. Apparently, in the rush of adrenaline, Billy demands that Gregg give him his wedding ring, but apparently Gregg wouldn't do it. And he said, verbatim, my wife would kill me.
Yeah, if he lost his ring, his wife would kill him.
That sentiment in itself is so tragic. And like in his final moments, he is thinking of what his wife would think.
Really explains a lot here, right?
Yeah. So Billy and Pete weren't actually there to rob him. They were there for one thing, to murder Gregg Smart. They had planned it for months, even made multiple other attempts that we talked about. And finally, here Billy was, JR's father's .38 caliber revolver in his hand. All he had to do was pull the trigger. I cannot fathom in this moment. I hope to never understand it. But according to Billy, he and Pete got Gregg up on his knees and Billy pressed the gun to Gregg's temple. And according to Billy, he swallowed, fearful, and he said the words, God forgive me, and then pulled the trigger, killing Gregg in one shot. Within seconds, he and Pete sprinted out the back door, racing to the van where JR and Raymond were waiting. The four boys sped out of the suburb into the night, away from the scene. And they didn't just drive off in silence. Like this sentence itself, I think, describes the mental state they were in and the lack of understanding of the severity of it. Because as they drove off, they turned on Metallica's Seek and Destroy and jammed out to the song like it was any other night.
It's like, I know that this has nothing to do with this case, but like in a way it reminds me slightly of Stranger Things, where it's like all these kids are
dealing with the most traumatic thing ever
and like mass murdering a bunch of people in the name of saving their friend.
Yeah. But that again is fiction.
Yeah.
This is reality.
While the boys fled, Pamela is wrapping up the school meeting, right? So she's leaving. She doesn't rush on her way home. It's a little after 10 p.m. when she finally does get home and finds her condo ransacked. The dog is locked in the basement and Gregg's dead body is on the floor. Finally, Billy has followed through the plan that he had promised to her, right? But it's not over yet because she has to sell the thing. She said she'd take care of everything after the fact and now it's her time to shine. Pamela screamed. She ran out of the house. She was knocking on several neighbors' doors as she shrieked into the night that her husband was dead. She was distraught. She was frantic. She's crying. One of the neighbors calls the police, hearing her. And as the officers enter her home, Pamela knew exactly what they would find inside. She made sure of it. Her husband's murder, just like everything else in her life, was perfectly organized and planned out. Or so she thought.
I mean, the performance that she had to, like, she walked inside, because keep in mind, before this, Billy and his friends had not followed through, so she's not really certain. She walks in, sees her husband's body, like, it's psychotic to me. And to have to then be so numb about the fact that this person that you married and once were in love with is dead on the floor, and then turn on this, like, acting.
Because for all we know, there was no real, like, abuse or anything that she could use as an excuse for.
Yeah. So she thinks it's all perfectly working out and her plan will go as she had thought it would. And yes, it did look like a botched burglary, but right away the police can tell that there's something not right about the scene. Like we said in the beginning, the first thing that stands out to them is the way that Gregg was killed, because burglaries don't usually involve guns. And according to the Derry police, robbers usually aren't armed. They want to break in, get the stuff, and leave. If they do have a weapon, it's usually a knife, not a gun. According to the responding officers, it seems strange that a robber would be carrying a gun at all, let alone decide to use it in an execution-style slaying. And then the second, far stranger part of this was Pamela herself. The second the police finished their search of their condo, she goes up to them insisting that she speak to them. She instigates this. And obviously they were like, yeah, we were going to talk to her and get her witness testimony. But the way that she's so insistent on it.
Well, and she's supposed to be this, like, grieving person, right? Like, but now she's suddenly a part of this murder investigation from the get-go and has her own theory to present.
Yeah, she's emphasizing
minutes
the burglary gone wrong. She tells them that the first thing she noticed when she went home was the electronics piled up against the back door. So it must be a burglary, which the cops are like, I'm sorry, the first thing you notice is the electronics piled up at the back door, not your husband's dead body.
Right. Or like your dog missing, unless she let the dog out of the basement, which I don't think she did at this point. No, she didn't. Yeah, just so weird. And obviously investigators catch on to this, right? Because that's super weird reaction.
It's like a couple of, like, red flags, which, like, at first they're like, okay, maybe it's just like her weird response to this traumatic event.
Yeah.
But then,
well, kind of that, like, weird responses is basically like the whole Amanda Knox case.
I know.
That she didn't behave and react in the hours and days after her roommate was murdered in the way that people expected her to. And so she must be the killer. It is hard because it's like, it's hard to judge, although the majority of people respond in a few different ways, which is like the psychology of it. And there's whole professions dedicated to understanding how people respond to this emotional trauma, or how killers respond after murder and all of this. But anyway, so that was a detail that stuck out in the investigators' minds. And not once during the interview did Pamela ever refer to Gregg as her husband. She simply called him the body.
Which is so detached.
So shocking. And it got weirder when 2 days later, the police came with Pamela to look at the condo so she could pick up some clothes for herself, because it was an active investigation, so she couldn't just, like, live there, and also had not been cleaned. Pamela did not seem to have any issue stepping over the large dark brown stain of blood on the floor to get to what items she needed in her home. And this wasn't just like she stepped over once and maybe, like, blacked out. It was multiple times of her going back and forth over where her husband had just been shot and killed.
Major signs of, like, suspicious behavior. And Pamela seemed incredibly comfortable with reporters. And she starts talking to anyone she can after this tragedy of her husband's death. Anyone and everyone. Because finally, here Pamela is. She's on TV. She's the center of attention. She gets to tell her story. Everyone is looking at her. And it is becoming a sensational story. Her face is literally everywhere. Even though the police were like, okay, she's a little suspicious and this is shady, Pamela had an alibi.
Yeah, and a million witnesses for her alibi, too. She's not just like, oh, yeah, I was watching a TV show and had a call with my mom.
But so the police are like, if Pamela did this, we need to collect way more evidence to actually prove it.
On June 10th, 1990, a little over a month after Gregg was killed, the police found the murder weapon. Or actually, it was handed to them.
I appreciate this part of the story so much.
Because it's like the thing that you had wished happened so many times before and the amount of time that they had leading up to the crime.
Yeah.
So in the days following the crime, JR's dad couldn't help but feel like he had heard the name Smart before in their home. So then he was thinking about it and it clicked because the victim's wife was Pam Smart and Pam was volunteering with his son and he was aware that they had been hanging out a lot recently, spending a lot of time together. So that had always struck him as strange. He was clocking that originally, but it got a lot stranger. As Gregg's murder continued to get more media attention, he started noticing his son behaving really differently. So his son was now more rowdy, a lot more cocky all of a sudden, which is like extra weird if like your like a mentor's husband was just murdered. That doesn't seem like the appropriate response to that.
No.
So JR's dad was paying attention and he actually overheard him boasting about being involved in the homicide. So suddenly a horrible picture started to be painted for JR's dad. And he knew the victim had been shot, and following a hunch, he went to go look at his guns because he overheard his son talking about being involved. His son's acting weird and cocky.
And he has
And he has guns.
He has guns. So he's like, let me go see.
Let me go check. And this confirmed his hunch. All of his guns were in the correct place, but one of his guns was very shiny and clean. Way too clean, as if it had recently been cleaned, and he knew he had not cleaned it. So he brought the .38 caliber revolver to the police, and sure enough, it matched the bullet used to kill Gregg Smart. And the police finally had their murder weapon.
And what I appreciate about this, and this is like, I can't even imagine as a parent, like the complexity of this. Like, he's heard that JR got involved. Mm-hmm. He now knows, like, or sees this gun. Before bringing it to the police, he has the decision of like, if this is the murder weapon and I turn it in, that means my son is involved and is going to get caught for this.
Yeah.
Like this decision of, do I protect my child or turn them in, I can imagine is very, very difficult.
Yeah, in a way, turning him in is protecting him, because if you don't, and that cockiness festers and he doesn't get any treatment for what he just went through.
That's true.
Does he just escalate and ruin the rest of his life?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you say something to your son and say, what did you do? And then you're killed in the middle of the night?
No, I am grateful. I'm very grateful that like this is one parent that really did step in. Unfortunately, it's late, but
if anyone hasn't read the book, Defending Jacob, it's such a good one.
Shortly after the gun is turned in, the police arrest Billy, Pete, JR, and Raymond. And it does not take long for the true story to emerge that the mastermind was actually Pamela Smart. The only problem is they don't have any evidence to prove that, but they know how to get it. There is one person who can help them get Pamela, a teenage girl named Cecilia Pierce.
Cecilia Pierce sits at a table, staring intently at the telephone in front of her. Without thinking, she wipes her clammy palms on the front of her jeans. She tries slowing her breathing. Cecilia thinks to herself, it's just a phone call, just like a regular phone call, like any other day, but she knows today is different. Looking up from the table, she sees the small group of police officers sitting around her. One of them gives her a reassuring thumbs up as if to say, don't worry, you've got this. Cecilia didn't want to do this. She was loyal to Pamela. Pamela Smart was her friend, and Cecilia was determined to protect her, but slowly she saw the truth. Her mother and the police made her realize that Pamela didn't actually care about her. The only person Pamela cared about was Pamela. And if Cecilia didn't come forward, then her friends would take all the blame, and so too would she. So Cecilia folded and finally told the police everything about Pamela's relationship with Billy, her plan to kill her husband, and how she involved not just Cecilia and Billy in the plot, but 3 other boys from high school. The police believe Cecilia. They know she's telling the truth, but they also said that they need more tangible proof. They need Pamela to incriminate herself. And that is where Cecilia comes in. They need Cecilia to get Pamela to talk. So she dials a number to Pamela's phone, presses the speakerphone button, and waits. Silently, one of the police officers hits record on a tape recorder placed next to the phone. When Pamela answers, she's as talkative as ever. Cecilia can actually hardly get a word in at first. Pamela launches into her complaints about how much she's been bugged by reporters, how hard it is for her to get work now, and how she hopes that they'll just leave her alone. Pamela's in a very chatty mood, and that's good, so Cecilia chimes in. Seeing what happened, wouldn't you rather have just divorced Gregg? And Pamela laughs. No, she says. Nothing was going wrong until JR started blabbing to his friends. If JR had just shut his trap, it would have been the perfect murder. Now his dad turned in the gun and things are royally screwed. Cecilia's breath catches in her throat. Pamela had just outright said the perfect murder. Cecilia steals a glance at the cops, who motion for her to keep going. So Cecilia sighs, trying to match Pamela's frustration. She brings up the police and how she doesn't really know what to tell them. And Pamela interrupts Cecilia and tells her to avoid talking to the cops as much as she can. Cecilia pushes back. But wouldn't that be more suspicious? Wouldn't it be better to just talk to police rather than hide from them? But Pamela is vague, elusive, and direct, careful to not implicate herself. And by the end of the call, Cecilia thinks they have enough. But police inform her that they do not. If they want to implicate Pamela Smart, it isn't going to be over the phone. It will have to be face-to-face, which means the next step is far more dangerous. They need Cecilia to wear a wire and to sit across from Pamela in person.
I mean, I cannot even fathom the anxiety, and the pressure that Cecilia must have felt.
And her mom, too, to know that she's sending her 15-year-old daughter to face a murderer.
Right.
Because Pamela is
dangerous. Pamela is very, very dangerous.
She's extremely dangerous.
And Cecilia, you don't know how she's going to act. And finally, also, Cecilia, false vision and version of Pamela that she once saw is no longer real. Mm-hmm. And so, she probably has a lot of hatred for Pamela, but she has to go and pretend to be friends with her still.
Yeah.
I'm sure wear a wire.
A bit for her to truly understand.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the interview or the police interview? I guess maybe you could call it an interrogation of the Craigslist killer who was here in Boston.
Mm-mm.
And his girlfriend. Maybe she was a fiance at that point. It's so sad, but it's really fascinating to watch her sit down, the video of her sitting down with police and going through all of the details.
Ugh.
And you see her go from disbelief and what's happening, I need to get to him,
to realizing
fear.
Ugh.
And fearing him and being can you help me escape?
So now poor Cecilia has to face Pamela, and she knows that she has to get this information from Pamela, or she herself might end up facing jail time too, which is both the circumstances are pretty shitty, but I'd rather go wear a wire, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Cecilia wore a wire multiple times with Pamela. It's not just once. She does it multiple times. She is instructed not to interrogate Pamela, but to act like everything is fine. Let Pamela do the talking. Over the course of multiple in-person conversations, Pamela is very careful. She never outwardly confesses. She never states that she planned it all, but she did make a few mistakes. She spoke about the murder as a shared problem, as in we, us, if they hadn't, we would be fine. The we implies that she's involved.
That she's involved, yeah.
She also had knowledge that the police otherwise hadn't made public, the gun belonging to JR's dad. She minimized Gregg's death, focused on the media attention and damage control. Never once in any conversation that was recorded with Cecilia did she express remorse or sadness that her husband was dead. Not once.
Well, he was just the body, right?
Yeah. She also told Cecilia to lie. And so despite no actual confession, the police, through all of these recorded conversations, were we have enough to implicate her as knowing what was going on and being involved. So on August 1st, 1990, 3 months to the day since the murder, the lead investigator walks into Pamela's office and does the most badass arrest ever. He walks in, acting casual. He's like, "What's up, Pamela?" And he's like, "I have some good news. I also have some bad news. The good news is that we solved your husband's case. The bad news is that, Pamela, you are under arrest for your husband's murder." How?
Oh, it probably felt so good to say that.
Yeah, love that.
How many times do you think he practiced in the mirror or in his head? Oh,
so good.
Pamela was charged with being an accomplice to first-degree murder, and she was arrested there at school and taken to jail where she would wait to start trial. So now Pamela, Billy, JR, Pete, and Raymond were all in custody facing criminal charges. Cecilia was the only person spared from potential jail time, and that was really thanks to her helping in the investigation. But with 5 people in jail for this one single crime, the lead up to Pamela's trial was an enormous media frenzy.
Massive.
The story of the Black Widow murderess spread across the country like wildfire. And all the while, Pamela still played the role of helpless victim. She pleaded not guilty to her charges. She completely denied having any involvement in the death of her husband. She basically squarely blamed it on these boys, teen boys.
Teenagers. Yeah.
One of which she previously spent months telling that she loved him and that she wanted to be with him. And it became very clear that she never actually cared at all about Billy. Not in the way that he thought, at least. And while she professed innocence to the media and to anyone who would listen, the boys decided to go another route.
On January 28th, 1991, Billy, JR, and Pete all pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. They made an agreement. They were like, we will plead guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for testifying against Pamela. So just as legal jargon, if you want to know, a conviction of first-degree murder came with a mandatory life sentence in the state of New Hampshire, but second-degree didn't. So this was a lesser sentencing for all of them. They all agreed that they wanted to have some chance to live part of their lives in society instead of spending the rest of their lives behind bars. Very understandable. And Cecilia also agreed to testify on behalf of the prosecution. So this trial is shaping up to be a doozy. It feels like they have all these witnesses who are going to help convict Pamela and get a guilty verdict. And it's also a spectacle. This becomes one of the first trials in the United States to be fully televised. Do you want to know what the first one was? Ted Bundy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, back in 1979.
Dang. I just keep thinking about the Project Self-Esteem. Is that what it's called? Right? Project Self-Esteem. And if that continued on, because while it doesn't say much about the actual project, it feels like such a failure of the project that one of the appointed leaders led people who were there to be put on the right path into the exact opposite.
I'm pretty sure it only went on for 2 years, so it probably did stop very shortly after. So this case and trial was extremely popular with viewers all over the country. There were television crews and reporters that descended on the Rockingham County Superior Court in the small town of Brentwood, New Hampshire, where the trial was going to take place, and everyone wanted the story. Seating was so packed inside the courthouse that visitors had to have tickets in order to be allowed inside. They literally had tickets for a trial. Crazy. The unlucky people who couldn't manage to find their way inside had to watch everything unfold in television rooms and adjoining rooms. There were cameras everywhere, which meant Pamela was all over the news.
Yeah. Sorry, I have to interrupt for a second because for some reason, when you just said Brentwood, it clicked in my mind. I was like, wait a second. Isn't this exactly where... And it basically is. Do you remember the New Hampshire barrel murders? It happened in the 80s to 2000s, where basically there was a serial killer who murdered women and girls, or a woman and girls, and put them in barrels. And it was in Allenstown, which is right near Brentwood. So Brentwood's got a lot of activity over these past couple decades.
Anyway, so Pamela's now all over the news, which is, that's her lifelong dream, right? It's just not happening in the way that she ever thought.
She's famous. And she's on broadcasts.
Yep.
The prosecution's argument was all about control. So Pamela Smart, she manipulated 4 impressionable teens into making them do her bidding, which I fully believe that to be true.
100%.
That's their argument. But
if I was on the jury,
I would argue that's the truth.
Yeah, if I was on the jury, absolutely guilty.
Right. And it wasn't just that Pamela wanted Gregg dead out of some sort of dissatisfaction in her marriage. The prosecution argued that she wanted to collect money from his life insurance policy. So it was a $140,000 life insurance policy, which today is $333,000.
And I do think so. One big question that a lot of people do ask is yes, these teenagers were infatuated with Pamela, but was that enough to really make them want to do this? Apparently, Pamela did promise some financial gain as well from the insurance.
which probably would seem huge to a teenager.
Right. But I do think they mostly did it because of Billy and because they idolized her.
It's also so wild. I mean, New Hampshire is definitely cheaper than like the Boston area where we live. But I'm like, $333,000 in today's money. Like, what's that going to get you?
Right.
You get to go to college.
Yeah.
That's it. Maybe. Anyway, the case hinged on the testimony of these 4 teenagers. So Cecilia, JR, Pete, and especially Billy. One by one, they took the stand and they told the jury everything about their involvement, about the murder. Cecilia relayed the information she gave to the police, including the moment that she walked in that day in the condo on Billy and Pamela having sex for the first time. JR and Pete both admitted to their involvement in the crime. They talked openly about many conversations they had with Pamela about the best way to go about killing her husband, Gregg. But by far the most mesmerizing and upsetting part of the trial was unearthing the relationship between Billy and Pamela. Which, by the way, Pamela was never charged for any crime involving this relationship.
Crazy.
Yeah, I wonder, like, legally, why? Is it because, like, a crime was uncovered within the crime and you can only...
I have no idea.
Anyway. During Billy's testimony, he spoke with tears in his eyes, explaining how Pamela made it feel like the only way for them to have a future was if he killed Gregg. And even now, even after everything, he did still love her, which is like heartbreaking. You can like see how deep the manipulation goes.
And Pamela literally did not care about him at all.
He was just like, she could have picked any of the 4 boys.
If anything, she was annoyed by him and like the boys talking after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
They were an annoyance.
He called Pamela his first love. He said that he didn't want to lose her, but he also wanted to tell the truth about what happened. So when it came to the actual crime itself, Billy wasn't shy. He even pantomimed how he killed Gregg, kneeling down on the ground in front of the jury and showing the angle in which the gun was held.
So sad.
He described the moment he pulled the trigger, and he mimed cocking a gun and pulling the trigger. And Billy told the jury what he said that night, right when he killed Gregg Smart. God forgive me.
And then Pamela took the stand in her own defense, and as you can imagine, she painted a very, very different story. And she didn't deny her sexual relationship with Billy because enough witnesses had confirmed it. But she said that she regretted the relationship, that it was a wrong thing to do, which I don't believe she actually thought that. But in her version of events, Billy and his friends acted completely on their own. So basically her being like, he was obsessed with me, he wanted to be with me, so he killed my husband. Mm-hmm. The prosecution was quick to bring up the wiretapped conversations between Pamela and Cecilia, where Pamela basically admitted to nearly getting away with the perfect murder. Pamela had an excuse for that too. She said she pretended to know what Cecilia was talking about to further the investigation because she wanted to know what Cecilia knew, which
but the conversation where Cecilia could barely get a word in, that one?
Yeah.
What?
I mean, delusional.
As if the police weren't there, as if it wasn't recorded.
Yeah. And she continued to say that if she was really guilty, she would have taken a plea deal like the rest of them, which also means there's another layer of delusion here that she thinks that she could get away with it.
On March 22nd, 1991, and after deliberating for 13 hours, despite Pamela's attempt to sway the jury and the world that she's just this innocent party who lost her husband, the jury found Pamela guilty of conspiracy to murder, and she was handed a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. In August of the following year, the boys started to get their sentences. Billy was given 28 years behind bars. Pete, Raymond, and JR were given similar punishments.
Pamela tried and failed multiple times to appeal her conviction, and as of this recording, she is still behind bars, and chances are that she will likely stay there for the rest of her life. The 4 boys, though, Pete, JR, Raymond, and Billy, have had a little bit of redemption, or some of them have. In prison, all 4 of them did receive their GEDs. Billy became involved in the prison's ministry group, eventually got his bachelor's degree, and was referred to as a model prisoner. And eventually, all 4 of these boys, who are now men, were released from prison with mixed results. Raymond was paroled in 2003, but found himself behind bars just a few months later for a smaller petty crime. JR was released in 2005 and has remained in society since then. And in 2015, after serving 25 years of their sentences, both Pete and Billy were released. And all 4 have expressed deep sorrow and regret for their actions. But Pamela, she did not admit any guilt until a decade later. In 2024, 14 years after her husband's murder, Pamela admitted, quote, responsibility for it, but she didn't admit any facts of what happened. And then in January of 2026, so like very recently, she filed another appeal to have her conviction overturned.
Wow.
Like all others, this will probably be denied.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't see how you could undo what was done. Like, how do you work backwards from all of the evidence presented?
And it took that long for her to actually finally admit guilt. She doesn't feel guilt.
No, she doesn't. She just was told enough times by her team that she needed to change course and direction if she was going to get a different
appeal
outcome.
Yeah.
And this was her like poor display of attempting that.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, hey, she got fame.
She did.
And she destroyed so many lives in the process.
Yeah, it's so icky. Oh my gosh. Now I'm thinking back to Gregg's parents who lived in the same condo.
Oh,
complex.
yeah. Like literally they're down the street from their son as he's getting murdered.
Yeah.
It's so devastating.
It's interesting too, because it's like something like this happening in the 90s and them still having enough evidence and things coming forward. But now, like I think about like if this case happened now, how many Ring doorbell footage they would have. Like all of the attempted break-ins or like whatever, like attempts before would probably find themselves recorded somewhere.
For sure.
These kids would be on Snapchat and TikTok, like giving away way more information.
Yeah.
I feel like it's so much harder to have less evidence of crimes.
Which is good because that means it's harder to get away with crimes, which hopefully then prevents people from committing them in the first place.
Yeah. So hopefully there are no more Pamelas.
Hopefully.
Happening. So the prosecution in Pamela Smart's trial was right. This story was one about control because Pamela loved control. She craved it in everything that she did. And it's how she got everything she wanted. It's how she destroyed the lives of a group of teenagers.
And it's how she tried and then failed to orchestrate a narrative of herself as a victim. But she was not a victim to anything other than her desire for attention. And even now, after decades behind bars, Pamela is still trying to pull the focus back to her. But this time, maybe for the first time in her life, nobody is watching.
Thank you so much for listening. We are your hosts, Sabrina Deanna Roga and Corinne Vienne. Join us next Tuesday for another peek inside another Crimes of Passion.
And if there are any cases you'd like us to cover, please let us know in the comments. Here at Crime House, we want to thank each and every one of you for your support. And if you liked what you heard today, reach out on all social media at Crime House.
Don't forget to rate, review, and follow Crimes of wherever you get your podcasts. Your feedback truly makes a difference.
Bye, mommies!
To catch every terrifying moment, subscribe to @CrimeHouseStudios on YouTube.
Because this time, you're not just watching the horror, you're understanding it.